When I was a kid, my mom hated camping, but my dad loved it. And so once, maybe a couple times a year, we'd get to go camping, and it was just a whole different world. And even though my mom was completely miserable, I loved being able to fish with my dad and sleep in a tent and even, take a bath in a Rubbermaid container. And it was just so much fun, just living out in the woods for a couple of days here and there. And I just knew that when we went back home, there was something that was missing, and I needed this to be part of my world. And so as I grew up and I got a little older, my parents divorced, I wasn't able to be out in the woods once or twice a year like I loved as a kid growing up. And I had an opportunity when I was in high school to participate in FFA, Future Farmers of America, and it really changed my outlook on what I wanted to do with my life. And I got to be part of the natural resources team and the forestry team, and I raised pigs too, so that was a whole different deal. But being on these teams allowed me to go camping and be out in the woods again, and just be around like-minded kids my age who maybe grew up in those types of environments, and I got to learn from them. And I had teachers who kind of filled this role for me in teaching me about something that just was so out of the ordinary for me. I grew up in the Central Valley of California in the middle of vineyards. I'm from Selma, California, which is the raisin capital of the world. So you don't find a whole lot of trees out there, not a lot of forests out there unless you drive a few hours. And so it was like, I want to do anything and everything that I can to just be a part of this. I'm so tired of just driving by these vineyards and orchards and, talking to people that just do the same thing or, know the same thing. I want to know something different. I want to be a part of that. And so being on these teams, I was able to travel and learn about how to measure a tree, or how to just find the volume of a tree, or pace to find the acreage of an area, or just the stuff that nobody else knew. And I thought it was so awesome, and I wanted to just immerse in it. And when I went to college, I decided to just go as far away as possible, and I went to Humboldt State, where I was surrounded by the forest and woods, and could be in the redwoods and be around the tallest trees in the world. And I started as an environmental science major, not really knowing too much about what I would get into eventually, and had an advisor that suggested, well, if you really want to find a job, you better narrow your focus down, because unless you want to be a researcher or teach about environmental science, it's pretty broad. So I decided, well, why not forestry? I did the forestry team when I was in high school. I know a little bit about that. I know how to identify some trees. I'll check it out. And I ended up falling in love with it, and actually went to school for wildland fire management, which is a little different from what I'm doing now. Humboldt State is kind of on the coast, and there's not a whole lot of fire opportunities to be a firefighter on the coast. And by the time I graduated, I was with my now husband, and we, decided together that we would try to make it work on the coast and see what opportunities arose there. So I ended up getting into silviculture, working for a contractor at the time, doing some timber cruising, and surveys, and we were both kind of getting our feet wet in the northern California area, and decided that maybe we want to try forestry in a different state. And Oregon wasn't too far to the north. We started looking for jobs up here, and we found jobs in Coos County, and I put my cruising skills to use for about a year working for the Coos County Forest. It was a great experience because it was even though I came from a coastal forest working down in California, working in the redwoods compared to anywhere else is really different. I got some experience, and not long after I was able to get a job with the Bureau of Land Management, BLM, working as kind of a silviculture forester. It was great. I didn't realize how much I appreciated nurseries and seed orchards, and how much thought goes into producing a seedling that we don't really think too much about when we put it in the ground, how it's going to grow into this amazing ecological and commercially valuable thing that we can use in so many different ways. And I wanted to learn more, and even now I still want to learn more about how to produce this amazing product. So I worked for BLM for about 4.5 years, and got some really good experience with it. And then during that time, my husband and I had a baby, and we both decided that we were ready to try somewhere new. And I decided that for about a year, I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And so I took some time off and tried being a stay-at-home mom, and realized that I really miss the woods. And so I decided, at the time he'd found a job in Brookings, working as a procurement lumber or log buyer for South Coast Lumber. And I was home, and I decided I need to start looking for something else. I'm gonna do something different. I need to get outside again. I want to be part of the woods again. And so I was lucky enough to find a job with the Oregon Department of Forestry as the sudden oak death forester down in Curry County, Brookings area. And it was like, I was so happy, just like, I was surrounded by these diseased trees, but it was so amazing just to be able to be out in the woods again and talk to people and teach them, because it was a lot of just public outreach and public education, and just bringing this idea that was in their backyards that maybe they just hadn't given too much thought about, but just showing them like how the forest works, how these trees are affected by just this one little pathogen. And I had a whole new appreciation for it, and I was lucky enough to do that job for about 4 years until I only recently became a stewardship forester. And now I get to, in a different way, kind of educate small forestland owners and timberland owners and timberland representatives about the laws that we have in Oregon. And I don't know, I really love it, and I can't see doing anything else. To be a woman who knows the woods means that you have to kind of feel something for the woods. You have to, for me, feeling like I'm part of the woods means that I can give and take, and there's going to be this balance. Like, one of my favorite things to do is just go out and see how many plants I know in an area, and my friends all get tired of hearing, oh, did you know that's a Douglas fir? That's a Pseudotsuga menziesii. It's not an actual Tsuga, so it's not like a hemlock. It's different in this way. And then, they've heard these things so many times, but I just feel connected when I know a little bit more about what's happening and how the processes work. And I feel like this special connection, because I know, enough about my backyard that I could survive off of it if I needed to. I know when certain mushrooms are going to come into season, and what things might be edible off of a tree, and how to use this product so that we're not over consuming, so that we can still share them with the other critters that live out in the woods, and that's kind of how I feel like I know the woods. Like I have this connection, and I'm not going to use and abuse it.